Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to Ibrahim Traoré's era. Today we are not talking about policies, speeches, or military strategies. No, today we dive deeper, deeper than politics, deeper than power. We are exploring the mysterious force that surrounds one of the most talked about leaders in Africa today, Captain Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso. How does he survive so many coup attempts? How does he stand firm when the West tries to pull him down? What protects this young leader from the powers that be? The answer is not just in guns or security men. The answer lies deeper, in his roots, in his tribe, and in the unseen forces that walk beside him. Because Traoré is not only protected by soldiers, he is guarded by the power of the ancestors. Generations of warriors, priests, and spirits who have vowed to protect him. Today let us tell you the hidden story behind Captain Traoré's protection. A story the world does not understand. But his people know, his enemies fear, and his ancestors keep alive. In the western region of Burkina Faso lies Boucle du Mouhoun, a land not famous in newspapers, not highlighted on world maps, yet deeply respected by those who know Africa's soul. Here rivers weave like silent guardians through endless stretches of farmland. Mountains stand as ancient witnesses to the passing of centuries, and dense forests whisper stories that only the elders can translate. This is where Ibrahim Traoré was born. A small village called Bondokui. Simple, quiet, but powerful in ways the outside world cannot measure. In Bondokui, life is more than survival. Life is sacred. Every morning begins with a greeting to the earth. Every harvest starts with a prayer to the skies. Every important decision waits for the blessing of the ancestors. People here believe that the land itself is alive, not metaphorically, not symbolically, truly alive. The forests are not just clusters of trees, they are protectors. The rivers are not just sources of water, they are messengers. The mountains are not just rocks, they are elders, standing guard. To disrespect the land is to invite trouble. To ignore the ancestors is to court disaster. From childhood, Traoré was taught this. His mother, like many women in Bondokui, woke early to sweep the earth, not just for cleanliness, but to greet the spirits of the morning. His father told him stories of their lineage, not just as history lessons, but as sacred truths. In Bondokui, every child grows up knowing who they are and where they come from. Before a boy is given a knife to cut firewood, he is given a lesson about the spirits of the trees. Before a girl is taught to fetch water, she is taught how to greet the river as an elder. Ibrahim Traoré learned early that power is not something you take. It is something given by the ancestors, by the elders, by the spirits that watch over the village. As he grew older, he would join his father in quiet visits to the sacred groves. No words, just silence, listening, feeling, knowing. In times of drought, the villagers would not rush to dig deeper wells. First they would gather. They would call upon the sages. They would consult the keepers of tradition. Only after the proper rituals did they act. It is said that once, as a boy, Traoré asked why they could not simply build a road through the forest to make trade easier. His grandfather looked at him sternly and said, "That forest has stood longer than any king. It protects us. You do not cut through your protector." That day Traoré learned that progress means nothing without respect. The land that raised him was not rich in gold, not wealthy in trade, but it was rich in knowledge, in discipline, in ancestral wisdom. And this land did more than raise a boy, it forged a leader who would carry its silent strength wherever he went. A leader who, when the time came, would stand not as one man but as the voice of his ancestors. And so while the world looked at Traoré and saw a young soldier, his people looked at him and saw the mountains' patience, the rivers' flow, and the forest's protection. The land raised him, and the land walks with him still. As a young boy, Traoré was taught that before fighting with weapons, you fight with wisdom. Before leading soldiers, you must first be approved by the ancestors. Long before he entered the military, a special ceremony was performed for him. Elders and priests sought the spirit's guidance. They asked if Traoré should become a leader. The answer came clearly, yes, but only if he remained humble, only if he walked in truth. That is why, even today, Traoré lives simply. He wears no gold chains. He does not build a palace. He obeys a spiritual code, a code passed down from the ancestors. When outsiders speak of Burkina Faso, they often think of poverty, drought, simplicity. What they miss is what Traoré never forgets, the power of his tribe. Ibrahim Traoré comes from a people who carry history in their blood, the Marca and Mandé peoples. But these are not just tribal names, they are legacies. Centuries ago, before Burkina Faso existed as a modern nation, these people were part of the Great Mali Empire, one of the richest and most powerful empires in African history. Their ancestors marched under the banner of Sundiata Keita, the Lion King, who united lands through both war and wisdom. The Marca and Mandé are warriors, yes, but also traders, priests, blacksmiths, and poets. For them, strength is not just measured by how many battles one wins, but by how many stories one passes down. In Traoré's village even today, the elders gather children around the fires at night to tell the epics of Sundiata, of Mansa Musa's journey to Mecca, of the battles fought and won in the name of justice and unity. As a child, Traoré sat at these fires. He listened, he learned, and slowly the words of the griots, the storytellers, became his foundation. But within the Marca and Mandé tribes there is something even more mysterious, a tradition that outsiders rarely hear about. A group known as the Kamalendonso. They are not soldiers in the usual sense. They are spiritual warriors. Kamalendonso are trained not just in hunting animals but in tracking human intentions. They learn to sense danger before it arrives. They are taught to read the rustle of leaves, the pattern of clouds, the cry of certain birds. For them, the physical world is a map, and every sound, every shadow, is a message from the spirit realm. Some call them witches, others call them protectors, but in his village they are called simply guardians. From a young age, Traoré was taught to respect the Kamalendonso. It is said that before he was even a teenager, he was taken by his father to one of their hidden gatherings. Not to become one of them. That path is chosen, not given, but to understand. To understand that strength is not only in weapons, that leadership is not only in commands, that the invisible shapes the visible. The Kamalendonso wear amulets called gris-gris, tied with leather cords. These are not decorations. Each contains sacred words, metals, herbs, protection forged through rituals known only to their order. Before battles in the past, Mandé warriors would consult the Donso for guidance. They believed no sword was sharp enough without spiritual blessing, no shield strong enough without ancestral power. Traoré carries this understanding today. This is why, even as a modern military captain, he does not ignore the unseen. His strategies are not just tactical, they are spiritual. His tribe taught him that when you lead people, you carry not just their hopes but their history. Each time he speaks, each time he makes a decision, he remembers the weight of the Marca and Mandé behind him, the blood of kings, the wisdom of priests, the silence of hunters. That is his tribe, that is his power. And while outsiders see uniforms and ranks, his people see something deeper. They see the child of Bondokui, the son of warriors, the vessel of ancestral strength. In the halls of power and in the quiet of the forests, the power of his tribe walks with him, and it is this power, silent but unbreakable, that helps him stand when others fall. Many people think Captain Traoré's protection comes from soldiers in uniform, from guns, from armored vehicles, from walls of steel. But those who know the truth smile quietly, because they know Traoré's strongest guards do not wear military boots. They walk barefoot. They do not hold guns. They hold secrets. In Burkina Faso, especially in the lands where Traoré was raised, there is an ancient belief: the spiritual world does not watch from afar. It intervenes. Every time a coup is plotted, every time betrayal is whispered, every time danger circles close, the spiritual guardians awaken. In the modern capital, in the quiet corners of power, they call it coincidence, strategy, good luck. But in the villages, the elders know the truth. The ancestors protect their son. It is said that before every major crisis in Traoré's leadership, a ritual is performed. Elders gather. Priests chant in languages forgotten by most. Animal sacrifices are offered not to beg, but to affirm. Protect him. He is ours. These ceremonies are not public. They are not posted on social media. They happen in forests, under moonlight, in the places where history still breathes. But their effects? Visible. People tell stories. Stories that outsiders dismiss, but locals swear are true. Once, before a coup attempt in 2024, it is said that a respected elder had a dream. In the dream, a black snake entered the presidential palace. It hid under the floor, waiting. The elder woke in fear. He sent word to Traoré's secret advisors. A cleansing ritual was performed immediately. The next week, security forces arrested several insiders plotting against Traoré, among them a close aide, the snake inside. Was it coincidence? The people say no. In another case, during a suspected assassination plot, something strange happened. 3 top army commanders, who were believed to be involved, all reported terrifying nightmares. Dreams where they were chased by faceless shadows. Dreams where their families cried out to them in chains. Dreams where the faces of their ancestors turned away in silence. Within days they confessed. The plot collapsed. And in Bondo Kui the elders only nodded. The ancestors are awake. Traoré knows this. He respects it. This is why he is said to keep within his circle, not just generals and advisors, but spiritual guardians. Men trained not in modern combat, but in ancient knowledge. These guardians do not seek fame. They seek protection. They read the omens. They interpret the silences. They tell Traoré when to speak, when to wait, when to act. Before major national events, speeches, decisions, or battles, it is whispered that rituals are held in secret. White chickens sacrificed to cleanse his path. Special herbs burned to confuse his enemies. Protective amulets buried at crossroads to guard against betrayal. Even his clothing sometimes carries symbols woven in secret. Protective marks sewn by grandmothers who remember the old ways. In the modern city, people dismiss such things as superstition. But in the villages, they know. Because when they see Traoré survive attack after attack, betrayal after betrayal, they don't ask how. They know why. He is protected, not just by men, but by the guardians, the ancestors, the spirits of the land. And as long as they watch over him, no enemy, whether foreign or local, can reach him. Few know this, but Traoré often visits his village quietly. He goes not just to greet the elders, he goes to renew his spiritual strength. He participates in night vigils. He walks barefoot during certain ceremonies. He humbles himself before the ancestors. When praise comes, he redirects it to the people. This is not politics. This is ancient wisdom. He knows pride leads to downfall, but humility brings protection. To the West, Traoré is a puzzle. How does this young soldier with no elite Western education stand so firm? They do not understand. He does not stand alone. He stands on the shoulders of his ancestors. At least 30 coup attempts have failed. Some ended mysteriously. Some collapsed from within. Why? Because, as the elders say, the ancestors are awake. There are stories of would-be traitors driven mad by nightmares, of commanders who changed their minds suddenly, of strange apparitions appearing before plots could succeed. The people believe, and that belief is power. When a leader is seen as protected by spirits, it unites the people. It terrifies the enemies. It builds a force that weapons cannot destroy. Traoré is not seen as a man. He is seen as the vessel of ancestral power. Why does this matter to the rest of Africa? Because Traoré is showing a new path. A path where leaders are not chosen by foreign powers but by ancestral approval. A path where traditions are respected. A path where elders have a voice, not as decoration but as guardians. And this is dangerous to the old system, because it means African power is returning home. No more puppets. No more leaders controlled from abroad. Imagine an Africa where presidents seek the approval of the ancestors before making laws, where spirits guide policies, where humility, not greed, leads governance. Traoré is proving this is possible, and he is not alone. Across Africa, young leaders are watching, listening, learning. This is why Traoré cannot be touched. His protection is beyond what can be seen. The ancestors are awake, and they are guarding him. The people believe it. His enemies fear it. And as long as he stays humble, his protection will never fade. Africa is changing. A new era is beginning. An era where leaders walk with the strength of the past to build the future. This is not just Ibrahim Traoré's story. It is Africa's story. This is Ibrahim Traoré's era. If you believe in the power of our roots, share this story. If you believe Africa can rise again, stand with us. Until next time, honor your ancestors, protect your people, and never kneel.